Attention all students. Class is in session. With your hosts, Pat and George. That'll teach ya.
Hello and welcome to another episode of That'll Teach You, the podcast that aims to teach you all the things school just did not. I'm your co-host, Patrick Johnson. I have with me George Lamone. George, how are we?
Mate, I'm great. Sublime. Happy to be here. Got an exciting guest on this week, guys. Marko Maric from one agency, Cronulla-Caringbah. He's had about 5 years real estate experience, just taken over the business that he's currently working in.
Yep, it's going to be a great episode. If you're looking to sell your property, you're in the market to buy, we've got some hot tips for you. Or if you're renting, we're going to teach you how to stand out in this market.
Let's get into it.
That'll teach ya.
Beautiful. All right, Marko, mate, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Lovely to have you here, mate. So we'll get straight into it. Tell us a little bit about one agency, Caringbah and Cronulla.
Yeah, sure. I started working. I've been working in real estate for 5 years.
Yeah.
With a lady, Jill Yankos, who pretty much began with her and kind of took over the business from her as well. So never really moved. But we were Ray White, Cronulla. And about 3 years ago, she parted with Ray White and then opened up one agency, Cronulla-Caringbah, which is one agency is like a network of 170 offices.
Yeah.
Look, they've been amazing. And in February this year, I took over as the owner, the principal. She just wanted to kind of, I guess, not continue running the business. And I wanted to grow a bit more. So took over, took an office.
Good fit.
Yeah, awesome. Because we were working from a house for 3 years.
Wow. Is that through COVID and stuff? Or?
We kind of opened in, I think it would have been 2020.
Yeah.
And so it was, just before COVID.
Yeah.
And it worked out well because obviously we know what happened.
Yeah.
And but look, the 3 years we made it work, made like decent money as well. But I obviously was like, look, I can't work from your house forever.
Yeah.
And basically, she's like, you know what? It's in your hands. If you want to do it, go for it. So she gave me every opportunity. Her and her husband, Charlie, great people. Pay a lot of respect to them for everything they allowed me to do.
Yeah.
Now I'm in the seat of running the business, which, it's gone for a few months now, but it's crazy what you learn just in a few months.
It's a steep learning curve for sure.
Yeah. So, we're a boutique agency in the Shire. We've got a lot of competition, but we find the people that want to work with us and you make it happen.
It's awesome.
Make their dreams come true.
Yeah.
What kind of, so I'm guessing, mainly sales, but are you doing leasing and renting as well?
Yep. So we started with sales, only ever sales. So when I joined Jill, she never did renting or property management. So I was talking to a lot of different people in the industry and they mentioned, you know what, property management, it's a great source of income for so many reasons. And I was like, I need to get onto this thing.
Yeah.
I'm 24, in 10, 20 years time, I want to make sure that I've built something that's a good asset and it's going to contribute to the business. So I just, started that 6 weeks ago, property management in-house. Now we've got just a small 4 on our book, for management.
Start somewhere.
That's it.
Yeah.
So we're just slowly building up that kind of process and pipeline in the business.
So you touched on your main, bread and butter is sales.
Yep.
There would be a lot of people listening who might have just bought a place in the last couple of years. They've started to find out property prices are quite high. They might have made quite a bit of equity. They're looking to now sell their place at more than they bought it for. Could you give us a little insight for those people who this is their first time? What's the sales process like? And when they're picking an agent, what sort of things should they look for? Obviously, if they're around here, they should come talk to you. But, we've got listeners interstate. Even we've heard, Carter, that we've got listeners in Canada these days.
Listener.
Oh, okay. We've got a listener.
That's all right. It counts.
We're international. We've made it.
Wow.
So, for all those people that aren't local, what type of things should they look for in their sales agent?
Okay, so for selling the property, it's a good question because if you've never sold before, I always ask the question, if you haven't sold before, what do you think happens in the sales process? And people don't actually know. They go, well, I don't know. It's on the internet. And
that's your job, mate. Tell us.
Somebody walks through the door, and so that's where I have to start. So somebody looking to sell their property, typically what you'd want to do is look out for an agent that's, out there that's actually listing and selling in the area. That's one thing. I'd say, okay, first of all, that's their marketplace and they're active in the area. And then I would say just go to an open home. Go to one of the open homes and see how they treat you just as a buyer.
Yeah.
And really get inside, because you're going to see exactly how they're going to treat your buyers walking through your door.
Yeah, love that.
And so you call an agent up to your house and say, I'm thinking of selling. They're going to give you their best everything, right? Hey, I'm the best agent. I'll do this. I'll do this. I'll do this. I'll promise you the world. But go to their open home and see actually what is the truth, right? Are they going to call you back? Are they going to call you back on Monday or Saturday afternoon? Yeah. Do they call you back? Do they text you? What is the thing that's going to set them apart as an agent? And then I would say that's like pretty much a job interview for a real estate agent, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic advice. I mean, it's like sort of like when you go through and you've heard these people when you're picking a partner, and they say, see how they treat the wait staff or the hospitality staff. Have you heard that? It's sort of the same thing. You see what people are like when they don't know they're being watched.
That's exactly right.
Is a really good bit of advice. I never even thought of doing something like that.
Yeah.
All right. So they've found an agent that they like. What's the next sort of step or the process that when you're selling your property you go through?
Yeah. So the next step, obviously, you typically have an agent come and view your home, right? Yep. So they come into the property and they do an appraisal, is what they call it. So they'll come through. Usually, if they're prepared and they're professional, they'll come with some information of comparable sales, what some of the properties similar to yours are selling for in the area.
Yep.
And typically they would have a discussion with you about where they think the property sits on the market roughly in this time period, right? So once you kind of go through that process, there's an explanation of, okay, there's different methods of selling. You have auction, you've got for sale, private treaty, expressions of interest. Then you've got time frame, how long it's going to be on the market for. Marketing costs. See, marketing costs is separate to commission.
Yeah, of
right.
course.
So it's something that typically is an upfront cost, which is, I guess, the money that you're investing into getting your property on the market for buyers to see it.
Yeah.
Because the agent doesn't get paid until they actually successfully sell the property, and that's where they get paid. So sometimes properties don't sell, agent doesn't get paid, so they've worked for free. You've lost your advertising money. It is what it is, right?
How much does that vary roughly from agent to agent? Is there a big variance between a top line agent and someone just starting out, or
for marketing costs or commission?
Yes, marketing costs.
Marketing costs. I don't think I would say it's quite competitive because agents know really, look, if they're asking for big dollars, it's going to be hard for them to get the listing. So everyone's trying to be quite competitive.
Yeah.
There's a few main things that everyone really needs when selling a home. Obviously, you need photos. You need typically a floor plan, signboard. You don't always need one, but signboard, brochures, DLs, the flyers to go in the letterboxes. And then obviously the biggest thing is realestate.com and domain advertising and those portals, right? They're the biggest chunk. In the Sutherland Shire, for our subscription, majority of the agent subscriptions is costing you about, I think, $2,300 for realestate.com and about $2,000 for domain. So that's like $4,500 just to get on those portals, and you can't compromise on those.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is that governed by how much the property is? Anything? That's just like.
Yeah, you go to eastern suburbs and there'll be more. I guarantee you they're the highest.
So it's governed by area?
Yeah.
Okay,
by cost and price, and they see the monopoly and they go, well, hang on a second, you need us. This is what we're charging you.
Wow.
And they will put it up every financial year as well.
Wow.
So, look, and we say that to the owners, and reality is that's not something you'd compromise.
It's a non-negotiable.
Yeah, it's a non-negotiable. Unless, look, you've got a buyer off market, that's another situation, but if you really want to sell your property and get the best price, you kind of want to maximize the buyers coming through the door, and that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, so you've sorted out all the commissions, everything's ready to go. You've picked your agent. What then happens?
Okay, so for example, I've just put one on the market now in Caringbah. It's a house there. We obviously, listed her up. She agreed with everything we suggested, marketing, paid that up front. Now, I guess what's next is just booking in photography, right? Or actually, a step before that is getting the house prepared. So we actually got a cleaner in. I got the pool. She has a swimming pool. Yeah. So you need a contract. On your contract, you need either a pool compliance or non-compliance. Yeah. So I had an inspector come out to give her a non-compliant certificate. You can't sell a property with a pool without that. Yeah. So we got the contract prepared, pool inspector out there, cleaner in. So these are all the things that I guess I would like to think separate a good agent from a great agent. So an agent can walk in and say, yep, let me sign the house up. Let's put it on the market. I'll get the photographer here in 2 days. Yep. Or you'll have another agent that says, hang on a second, let's get this house in its best looking state before it hits the market. Because majority of people are selling their house of 30 years, and it's like you get one shot at it, make it good, make it great. So that's like another example. We had a duplex that was 4 or 5 years old. Not obviously it's not that old, but we're competing with brand new duplexes on the market. So it's like, how do we make sure this is going to compete with those? So we got a painter in, full internal paint, got it styled. It looked all right.
I was going to say styling. Like at what point does that come into the mix?
I would say it's going to depend on the property, the age of the property. Because there's a degree where you go, well, look, this is an older home. It's quite obvious what it is. We're not going to influence the buyers by that much. It's neat enough, and it's not going to need much more. But when the home is in the last, I'd say 20 years, you can actually influence the age of the home by what's inside. And with photos as well. But when they walk through, they're like, I feel good in this home. You want people feeling good about a property. It's not about how they think about it. It's about how they feel. That's where we can try and get a better price. Usually from the wife. Right? That's it. So
the boss.
That's it. The boss in most cases. So going back to the process, so we got a place cleaned up, had photography there on Wednesday, photography back on Thursday, same thing, floor plan there. Once we have that, we've written up an ad. So we do that in-house. We kind of, we're quite used to it now, writing ads on, we know the location of the property, what the property offers, and just try and sell that to the buyers out there. I think most people are visual nowadays, so they're looking at photos rather than reading ads, but some people read them. And then, basically once we get all that information, show it to the owner. They're happy, great. We click a few buttons on our database in the back end and it goes on the internet. From this process on, it's pretty straightforward. I will have an open home on a Saturday. Because it's now Thursday, I won't have a midweek open. I'll just have the first open on the Saturday. I'll have, I'd like to think, 25 plus groups through.
Wow.
And then on if we have time on the Saturday afternoon, I'll do callbacks to those buyers. If I can't get a hold of them on the Saturday, I'll call them on Monday. If I can't get a hold of them for the second time, I'll send an SMS saying, hey, saw you at the open house. Are you interested in this property? If they are, I'll do my thing. Then with that information, all the feedback that we got, price, offers, contracts out, pest and building reports that might have been downloaded. That's another thing, a pest and building report. We had a pest and building inspector come to the home before we marketed it, and they do a quick report, and then people can buy that for $49. And that's just, I guess, peace of mind for someone to know that
something as brokers we always recommend our clients do when buying that, and your strata reports. Very,
crucial bits of information.
So missing a few things here that are coming back.
It's all right.
So that's it. Pest and building, and basically with that information, I will then have a meeting, say on the Wednesday, with the owners. If I can sit down with them, I'd love to, and then run through what the feedback of the first week is. Pretty much continue that process week 2, week 3, and then coming up to week 4 of the auction. We should have enough information then to set a reserve Friday of the auction if it's on a Saturday, and then have the auctioneer rock up on the Saturday where you'd like to think you've got the interested. So I'll go back and say I would know if I've got interested buyers by them changing terms with their solicitor, right? Because if somebody's bidding at auction, typically their solicitor or conveyancer is going to negotiate some terms. Pest and building reports out, contracts, and then obviously having conversations with buyers about if they are interested, at what price are you coming to the auction? Will you be there? It gives us a better idea of how the auction will be going. And then, we have the auction, and then I guess every auction is different. And you kind of let that run, and that's where you're trying to extract the best price on the day by getting buyers emotionally invested throughout the campaign, and then putting them in a competitive environment where they compete with other people that you'd like to think are also emotionally invested to extract the best price.
Now, you mentioned auction there, and one of the questions I did have for you, and you've mentioned obviously it's to get the buyers emotionally invested, which is great for the person selling the property. For us as brokers, we have a lot of clients going to auction to buy, that we're organising the finance for. Is there any benefit for the buyer at an auction? Because a lot of people are scared of them, but I assume there's got to be some sort of benefit for a buyer at an auction.
Absolutely. I had an auction on Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
right? The one I just spoke about, 4 years old. We got it painted style, that one, right?
Yep.
I had 3 registered bidders on Saturday. I had one offer before the auction, and my conversation with the buyer was, look, appreciate your offer. Come to the auction. At this, obviously, point, I'm not going to be selling prior to auction under the guide, okay?
Yeah.
You know, more than welcome to come and bring that to the auction. I'm not saying it's not going to buy it, but, you know, that's your best chance.
Yeah.
Now, on the auction day, I had the 3 registered bidders and no one wanted to put their hand up. Right? Commence the auction. You know, they've come 4 or 5 times. Peston Buildings bought by the buyers. Terms agreed with solicitors. So they've spent money, right? They've talked to their solicitors. They're invested in this property. They like it. I've spoken to them many a times through the campaign. And then we get to the auction and they don't want to put their hand up. And I walk up to them and I said, hey, do you want to buy this? You know, like I thought that's what you're here for, right?
Yeah,
I don't understand. What are you waiting for?
Yeah.
Oh, we're just going to wait. Okay. Nothing worked out. So I got Andrew Cooley, as you guys know. I said, mate, vendor bid, 2,350. Okay. So 2,350, walk up to the buyer, 10 grand, 2,360. Okay, great. I'm thinking it's going to get a bit of momentum here.
Yeah.
The other buyer, no, I'm not going to, don't want to bid. I'm like, I'm lost. Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to buy it or you don't?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll just negotiate after. I said, oh, okay. I said, are you sure you want to do that?
Yeah.
I said, are you sure you want to do that? And they said, yeah. I said, look, because this is the most transparent way for you to buy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see everyone that's bidding and it's all here for you.
Yeah.
Go back to the guy at 2,360, show him the reserve. I say, here's the reserve. That was 2,450. Okay.
Yeah.
2,450. I said, you want to buy this? Put the bid here now and it's most likely yours. Okay. And it's all done, dusted, under auction, hammered down. Nah, we're not going to bid against ourselves. I said, fair enough. Nah, that's all right. Pass it in. Okay, cool. Within 5 minutes after Andrew Cooley cancels the auction, basically passes it in, I get an offer of 2,400 from one of the buyers. And I'm just like, okay, cool. And they go, you know, can we buy this? I said, well, now I've got multiple people I need to talk to here. Yeah. There's one couple sits down on the alfresco dining, just waiting to apparently negotiate. One of them's in a bedroom. Another one comes, the guy who offered the 2,370 before auction, he goes, mate, come here, talk to me, you know, come and talk to me. You better call my wife because, you know, we have the highest offer.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, let's,
Calm
you know,
down.
let everyone calm down, right?
Yeah.
So everyone wants to buy it, but they didn't want to take advantage, and I say that, take advantage of the auction process where it was all transparent.
Yeah. That's
Now,
a good way of putting it.
That's a great way
That's
of putting it.
Yeah.
So in this market where no one knows what something's worth because everyone's saying the market's, you know, it's going to fall under, interest rates are too high, properties aren't worth what owners are asking. Well, okay, I understand we're not selling Toyota Camrys.
Yeah.
I'm selling a house that's in a certain location that's pretty much a one of one.
Yeah.
So yes, I don't know the true value and I'm trying to let you compete with
It's a good point because a lot of people's reservations with real estates in general is that, you know, behind the scenes there's some leveraging and games going on, and you're saying, well, at an auction there's not, you know, because you're seeing the true value of everyone else's bids in one place, and the communication is happening right in front of you.
Correct.
So it's a really
so you can't
good
escape.
point.
You can't escape.
There is no games or anything like that sometimes people think go on because you are in the zone. You are seeing it happen in front of you.
And you know what? It's so funny. I ended up selling that property on the day, 3-4 hours later, where basically I was bidding back and forth on the phone, and the sentiment towards the end of the bidding was, I can't trust you.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm bidding against myself. Every time I give you an offer, it goes up $5,000.
Yeah.
And I said, you let it get to this. I said, I gave you the opportunity to bid at auction and buy this at auction.
Yeah.
I said, what do you want from me?
Yeah.
I said, this is all I can do, tell you that there's another buyer.
Yeah.
I said, I can go a bit more bullish if you like, and I can give you a best and final opportunity at, say, by 2 p.m. where you don't have a second chance.
Yeah.
But I'm giving you the opportunity to say someone else's bid. He goes, no, sell it. Sold it. And, you know, it is what it is, right? They miss out. And that's where, for an owner, this is very interesting, right? So an owner might say to me, well, why would I sell at auction? You know, I just sell it privately beforehand. Well, when you have two people that want to buy a property, and I mean really are invested, right? And they both want to buy it, it is very hard to get to that number, right? Because it basically is an auction, a Dutch auction, as they call it, is back and forth on the phone.
Yeah.
And I've done it plenty of times, just, you know, as I kind of learnt the ropes through real estate. But there is a burn-off point where a buyer is interested, they really want it, but they just get to a stage where they either lose trust in the agent because I just keep going back to them with a higher offer.
Yeah.
And just emotionally they're drained and they just go, I can't do it anymore, right?
Yeah.
And the disservice to the owner lies when we sell it, right? And we've exhausted the offers. So we feel as the agent, we've done everything we can. And then you get a call, 2-3 hours later or the next day, is it still available? And and that can happen with an auction, but there's that buyer remorse where they go, I would have paid more, but I just, in the moment, I kind of lost trust with you. The whole moment kind of
Well, it's that fear coming in as well.
Yeah.
Like it's the whole sort of cloud around the auction. I mean, I guess on the opposite side, it's good because the emotion for the person selling the property can sometimes drive the price up to get a better result as well when you've got two people that really want it. And you get into that sort of bidding contest, it's. I guess it's got pros for both.
Absolutely,
which is good to clear up.
And for your buyers that you're working with, like sometimes an owner wants a certain number, and the auction will tell them that it's not worth it. And sometimes, if they need to sell, your buyer's there on the day; they can make it happen.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you get a better deal as a buyer on the day.
Correct.
I've seen it many times. People give an offer, buy it at auction for cheaper.
Yeah.
That's a great answer, mate. I think people will really appreciate that perspective.
So we've talked a lot about the selling process, how to get the property on the market, obviously different types, especially auction and whatnot. On the flip side, for our buyers, as a whole, because you've got to obviously have bought a property first to sell it, so we've gotten that out of the way. But as a buyer, what are your top 3 tips for people out there in the market at the moment looking to buy something, whether it's going to auction, whether it's for sale? What are your top 3 tips?
Okay. Speak to as many agents as you can.
Yep.
Okay. I think that's the number one, because as an agent, there's so many buyers, and I could be a lot better with my buyer activity. And they come and go and you forget about them. But if you build up relationships with buyers and you let them know what you're looking for and you tell them your budget and you try and be as open with them as possible. Yes, they're going to try and sell you something for the most, but at the same time, they're going to introduce you to properties that you might not have seen on the market, sometimes off market, right? So that's one tip, is speak to as many agents as you can. And just be open and upfront with them. Sometimes agents don't like it when, you tell them the property's not worth what they think, but sometimes, you just got to tell them, look, I don't think it's worth this for these reasons. What's some other tips? Be approved to buy. Yes, it's good to do your research, but if you're actually looking to buy, you obviously have to get your finance and stuff sorted, which is what you guys do.
If anyone needs finance sorted, we know a couple of guys, so let us know.
That's it, right? So speak to these gentlemen here. Because it's important, you sometimes you're way off on what you actually think you can buy.
You're running blind if you don't really know.
What's another tip? Look, pest and buildings reports are interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's wise for people to buy them.
Yes.
But I don't know if they're that detailed. As an agent, I'm just saying this up front, I just think if you buy a pest and building report, it's $49. I see the guys do the reports and, good on them for doing it. But I just, they're just kind of walking through within, I don't know, a 45 to an hour process.
So do you recommend people getting independent ones done, or you just say?
I would say that get an independent one. Get your friend who's a builder through. Get whoever you can through that knows real estate or has done renovations before and might have a better understanding. Because a pest and building report, even to your average buyer who doesn't really know real estate, it's kind of like just a bunch of photos, a bunch of green or orange ticks, and to me, it's like a compliance thing, right? And
because you mentioned pest and building, which can you just, because around in the area here and a lot of our listeners, except for that one in Canada.
Even
What's a pest and building report?
Well, we live around a lot of apartment blocks.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of developments. Do they have pest and buildings? How does that work? Because I know pest and building can lead to properties.
You can do that. With the apartment complexes, it's mainly you're looking at the strata reports.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
That's going to have all your details about building defects. It's going to have about how much money's in the admin fund and capital works, all that, right?
And to your point, I would always suggest and we do to our clients, to get an independent review of the strata report, because your conveyancer and solicitor might briefly run through it, but if you get a specialist to look forward through it, it might cost you a couple of $100. So worth it.
I've looked at so many strata reports, and I'm a real estate agent, and there are a lot of. It's so hard to read.
It's dense.
Just dense and
so dense. And your conveyancer, who obviously knows what to look for, can flag up things to you, but
they can miss things too.
Yeah,
right?
But of course they're only human.
If it's something that doesn't come up all the time, or
their main concern is the contractor sale
Correct.
and making that happen and
Yeah.
making sure it's all do. So it is always a good idea to get an independent to look
Yeah.
at those things for sure.
Yeah, couldn't agree
I
more.
agree.
So they're good 3 tips, I
Love it.
think.
Yeah.
Why don't we give you a bit of quick fire
Go for it.
terminology, mate, for
Let's
jargon and real estate terms. Yes, Karsha's pointing to herself down there. So we want to teach people these terms so when they
Definitely.
hear them, you get a bit smarter.
That's it. I'll take it away, I think.
Go for it.
A deposit. What is a deposit? Whether it's 5%, 10%?
Yep. When you're buying a property,
Yep.
that you got to put down a deposit before, or usually at the same time of signing a contract.
Yep.
So obviously you need to have some skin in the game. You can't
Yep.
just sign contracts without a deposit. So let's say you're buying a property for $1 million at auction.
Yep.
10%, you're $100,000 on the day, right?
Yep.
Yes.
So 5%, $50,000. Okay, so
Yep.
pretty straightforward. You can also do a 0.25% deposit.
Yep.
That's usually when it's a private treaty. So
Yes.
that would be a bit of a smaller deposit.
So touching on deposit often goes in conjunction with deposit is cooling off period.
Yep.
What's that?
Okay. Buying not under auction conditions a private treaty, right?
Yep.
So a conditional sale, that would mean you would have a cooling off period when you purchase. So you put down a 0.25% deposit.
Yep.
You sign the contract with the owners. They sign. It gets dated, right? Exchanged. And what then happens is you have 5 business days to cool off on the property.
Yeah.
That's typical 5 business days. It can be negotiated for longer, 5, 10, 15. Usual is 5. Within that time period, you kind of want to go and sort out pest and building reports, strata, just do your due diligence about the property and make sure it is what you want to buy.
Finances.
That's exactly right. Finance, get that all sorted. Come to the end of that 5 business day period at 5 p.m. It will then cool off, subject to everything being agreed, where you'll have to pay the remaining of the deposit, being either 5% or 10% minus your 0.25.
And for our friends in other states, this is all different. This is usually strictly to New South Wales. There's finance clauses, you might know them as interstate, and they range, 14, 21 days, depending on where you are.
Can you explain explicitly what exchange means? Because we hear this term, but what actually happens?
I'm going to tell you what I know what exchange means. What an exchange is basically, so you sign a contract as a buyer, you haven't bought the property yet, okay? The vendor signs a contract, the same contract, you haven't bought it yet. Not until the agent has exchanged the contract, meaning that it's been dated, right, with the date, and then it's basically that's when it's exchanged and it swaps over. The buyer's contract will go to the vendor solicitor. The vendor's contract will go to the buyer's solicitor or conveyancer.
And at what point does that happen?
Well, it depends. Say auction day, right?
Yep.
Okay, bang, hammer hits or gable, whatever they're called. That finishes. I will sit down with the buyer or stand up, whatever I'm doing, get the buyer to sign the contract, change their terms if there was anything negotiated prior, get them to sign. Owners would most likely be there. If they're not, the auctioneer can sign on their behalf on the day. And then basically I'll date it then and there. Otherwise, if somebody wants to buy a property privately, once price is agreed, you just arrange a time to do it. Now, there's a lot that we're doing digitally now. You can do digital exchanges with contracts, which makes life a lot easier. And there is times when sometimes you've signed a contract with a buyer and then there's, say 2-3 hours until you've met the vendor and another offer comes in. And you're like, well, I legally actually have to give this offer to the owner to let them know. And I've had this situation before and it's an interesting ride because you've got emotions. You've got someone who thinks they bought a property when I've now learned to explain to them it's not done until it's exchanged.
I got one more for you, mate, before we move on. 66W.
Yes. I know what it is. I don't know what it actually stands for, 66W. I can't tell you what that means.
It's like a government term for like a...
Basically.
Government name.
So this comes down to just exchanging a contract unconditionally. So if you're buying before auction, right? So if it's an auction and you buy before, the purchaser's solicitor needs to provide a 66W, basically saying there's no cool-off period and they forfeit their rights to that and they're just going to buy
So
it.
pretty much
Exactly.
auction means 66W. And at all auctions, you would waive your right to the cool-off.
Except having the audience having a bid against other
and
people.
even sometimes you've got something for sale. Buyers will say, hey, I'll give you a 66W.
Because it's a bargaining chip. Because to the person selling the property, they go, great, I don't have to wait.
I want it.
We're done. Let's do it.
Yeah, and the vendor's like, you know what? Perfect.
Yeah,
it's a done deal for them too.
Done deal.
Mate, we've talked a lot about selling and buying, but as you know, in your industry, house prices are high at the moment and rates are high, which means that a lot of people can't afford to actually buy. So for those people, vacancy rates at the moment are so low because so many people are renting.
Yes.
Now, I know you've just sort of started up your rent roll.
Yes.
But, what tips have you got for people in such a competitive rental market at the moment? How do they stand out, from the couple down the road that are going for the same property? What can they do to better themselves?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like you said, I just started, so I don't have 5 years worth of experience in managing properties or leasing properties. But in the short time I have done it, I would say it's all quite advanced now with applications. So you come to a property, if you like it, you want to be ready to send an application in straight away, which I think there's 1 or 2 programs that are quite common. Yeah. So you'd have to have yourself set up on that and just have the information ready to go straight away and make it nice and easy and have all your information there for the agent so they don't have to call you and say, hey, where's your ID? What's your husband's name? Is there any pets? Just make it nice and crisp. Yeah.
And I think for listeners out there, handy tip, those platforms, I think it's T-App and OneForm.
Yeah, I think it is.
Because I'm going through the process at the moment. So I think you can create an actual account, upload all your documents. So it's almost like a one touch.
That's right. We've got one. I can't remember which one it is, but it's one of those. And basically once you set it up once, it's like everyone's using them. So
you don't have to fill out an application every
and
time.
Apparently that's what they used to have to do. And I'm like, that's crazy. That's crazy because and I guess one thing owners are looking for at the moment in this current time of the economy is finance. Are they going to be able to pay the rent?
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
What do they do for work? Is it going to be a strong income? And do you see their income going down in the next say 12 to 24 months?
How much do you have to tell these?
A lot.
The leasing agents.
I didn't realize until I started this.
Do they need to know my income?
I see it all.
100%.
I see everything.
Mate.
Income. Some need bank statements, depending if you're self-employed or not.
I see it all.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. So the way it works on our because I didn't realize what we needed to know. And when I did find out, I was like, it's quite intrusive into their lives. But basically, how our system works is it will say, well, this is the rent that they're expected to pay every week. This is their income. So this is a bit of a pie chart on their affordability.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if they're under 25%, which is a good thing, it'll be green. So if it goes above, So I look at it and go, oh, it's green. They can afford this place with ease.
To be honest, it's probably a good thing with the cost of living the way it is. I mean, it's like when we're getting people loans, you don't want to put people in financial stress. And the emotion of going to a place and going, I love this place, we're going to do it. And then they've got to eat tuna and rice for the rest of their life because they're trying to make rent. Mate, there you go.
It's good.
But it's that emotion that... it's the emotion versus like your bank account.
People always think they'll come up with the money, but when it gets tough, you've got a couple of weeks off work because you've been sick and you've signed up to this high rent that you probably can't afford. I think it's a good thing that they're doing that.
Yeah, and that's what it needs to be. It needs to be like structured like that. And so I guess the tips. Present yourself well. Yeah. Give as many references as you can if you can get good references from obviously previous rentals that you had. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It just comes down to timing and being quite quick. Yeah, but I feel like with properties, people want to lease them out quickly. Like they don't want to be sitting on them for too long. So it's like give them a good application, present yourself well, be accommodating, and maybe chase up the agent. I don't know if they're doing 10 opens on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Put yourself in a position where, they just make it easy for them. Say, hey,
Make yourself memorable as
I
well.
put myself an application
Yeah.
in an application. Would love to get it. What can you do for me?
Yeah.
Right. So exactly, make yourself memorable.
I remember when I was renting out in Cronulla,
Yeah.
I was really struggling because I was 18, young guy working at
Yeah.
the pubs. Like I wasn't the most attractive prospect. And I remember the agent was at a couple of the open houses, and one time I brought him a coffee for because I
Oh,
knew
really?
he goes, I've got this the next week, and I actually brought him a coffee that morning for his, and he loved me, and I ended up renting it. It was at
No
Searle
way.
Road at Cronulla.
You slime
That's
ball.
Wow.
it.
Yeah,
I've never
yeah.
heard that story.
Yeah.
See,
So-
there you go. You got to be creative.
That's it.
So
and give agents coffees. That's it.
Yeah.
mate, what was in your typical lunchbox? This will bring back some memories.
5 eggs.
No, I don't actually.
2 veg.
I wasn't prepared enough. I don't think I had brought lunch most days.
Oh,
I was
okay.
always
Your
just
canteen.
canteen.
Yeah.
I
Canteen
don't
king.
know.
Yeah.
When I was in primary school, it was always like a peanut butter and jam sandwich.
Oh,
Peanut butter honey.
that's not bad.
Peanut butter. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
You weren't allowed?
Oh, I feel like they're doing that these days. Because
What, they're not allowed at all?
Allergies and all that.
allergy,
Yeah,
yeah.
allergies and all that sort
My
of stuff.
dad used to put in space food sticks. Have you ever heard of these?
I remember them.
No,
They
I
came
used to
in
get
like an
bullied.
orange packet or something.
Yeah, it was. I don't know what they are. It tasted like cardboard, and I used to hide them every day when he put them in my lunch. And he'd come back and go, "You eat your space food sticks, mate?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, it was good." And
What?
had a backpack full of space food
Because he,
sticks.
yeah, 'cause he kept saying yes. So he goes, oh, he loves
He
them.
loves them. Yeah, yeah, awful. All right, so we usually do a quick fire question of your best subject. What's 9 times 7?
Oh my god. Well, it's going to be 10 times 7 minus it's 63. Yeah. There you go.
Wait, how did you just work that out? 10 times.
I just did 10 minus the 7. Yeah.
All right.
It's a long way, but you gave me a
Got
tough
there.
one. I feel like that was a tough one.
Got there in the end. Carter, can we fact check this? Is
Yeah,
it
no,
in
we're good.
fact?
It's got to be 63. It has to be.
I've got the ding.
So we've had someone else who had English as their worst subject, and we asked her. We won't name this person, but we asked her what was the difference between a simile and a metaphor.
I can't remember the simile. I think is like when you say it's like.
Correct.
When you
Yeah.
say something is like this, and
Yeah.
a metaphor is when you, I don't know how to describe it, but when you don't say it's like, you just say something. I don't
Yeah,
even
you
know
say
how-
it is something like
Yeah,
One is like, one is is.
yeah, one
Yeah.
is.
yeah. I know the difference, but I can't explain it. I don't think. Yeah.
You did all right. Yeah, ding.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Let's put that other one where he got stumped back in.
I leave it in. Honestly, I don't
all in
care. Leave it in.
Marko, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
Mate, if anyone wants to get in contact with you, they're thinking of selling their place, listing it, or you want to ask you some rent questions, how do they get in touch with you, mate?
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me on. You can just, I guess, give me a call. I'm a real estate agent. My number's 0412
Get your pens out.
72201. But nah, seriously, just Google, one
Yeah.
agency,
Yeah.
Cronulla-Caringbah.
We'll put your
honestly.
we'll put your details and stuff in the show notes as well.
That's it,
Yeah.
guys. Happy to help anyone with real estate
And he'll
needs.
probably show up knocking on your door as well,
Exactly.
so expect that.
If you live in the hood, that's it. I'll be there.
If he rocks up, take up 2 hours of his time.
Perfect.
Thanks, guys.
Well, that'll just about do it for another fantastic episode of That'll Teach You. Mate, great episode for anyone out there who's thinking of selling, needed some hot tips because they're in the market to buy, or, they're looking to rent and get some rental advice.
Definitely, mate. Big thank you to, of course, you, the listener, our crew, lovely crew, and of course, Marko, our guest this week. If anyone wants to get in touch with him, all his details will be in the show notes. And yeah.
Most importantly, mate, thank you to us for
Yes.
another great
How-
episode.
How could I forget?
And if you like that content, follow us on our social media, slide in our DMs, give us some ideas of new episodes you want to see. But most importantly, guys, remember, that'll teach you.
That'll teach ya.